Hi everybody. So I wanted to create a little video and I try to keep these short, but I can go on forever. Sorry, I've been MIA. I've been in Arizona trying to do some things, putting up a place in Arizona. Anyway, I wanted to talk because I've had this discussion several times in the last couple of weeks, if not more than several times. But when you guys are looking at other supplements or things to put in your body and stuff like that, whole food can be very deceiving anymore. You'll find a lot of supplement places out there that will say whole food, but yeah, if you look at the label, there's chemicals listed: citric acid, cholecalciferol, B12, methylcobalamin, cyanocobalamin, and it's actually the chemical names. This is not whole food unless under that labeling, because the FDA does make you list those things on there so that you can consider it a supplement. But under the panel of that, you should have a, this is just the Zymex factor. I don't know if you guys can read that, but you should have a list on there underneath that lists actual whole foods on there. So on this one, there's defatted wheat germ, there's lactose, which is milk, date powder, whey, enzymatically processed Spanish moss. So it's giving you actual foods that it's listing. So when you're looking at packaged foods, when you're looking at supplements that you may want to add, when you're looking at whatever you're doing to add things in, you are needing to make sure it says an actual whole food on there. Most places are going in and giving you a high dose of something specific. And they may start from whole food, but once they're pulling that chemical out, they're not putting the whole food in, they're only putting that chemical, which with standard process and with whole food supplements, you're not going to find a label that has a high dose. So like vitamin D is a good example because doctors will come to you and say, you need to have 10,000 IUs, or now they're doing them in micrograms, but usually it's the IUs. But you need 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. Well, if I were to look at cod liver, it's not going to have a high dose of vitamin D in there. It's not usually going to fit what a doctor's recommendation. But I will tell you, by having cod liver, the D with the A and the fats, you're going to absorb more of that and it's not going to cause issues in the body more so than if you just go get something that's not from whole food. You can get them from lanolin and lichen, I believe is the two. One's a seaweed and the other one you get from sheep fur that they wring out the oils. And that's what those are. So, or you get it from cod liver. Or you go out in the vitamin D, get it in the sunlight. Sunlight and cod liver are my places that I prefer to put people to do getting their cod liver or getting their vitamin D from. But the problem is that you need cofactors when you're absorbing a lot of these things. So if they give you a high dose of something, it stresses the body and can throw you're basically filling one hole to create another hole over here. And we don't want to do that. That is why I use the standard process. They grow their own plants on their own farm, that they know how to rotate the crops, they know how to regenerate the soil, they process it there where they know how the heat and temperatures and things to process it properly. You do not want to get a bunch of things that are dead. If you're getting a food that's been overcooked, sealed in something your body can't break down, used a bunch of chemicals in the processing, those will be a problem. And they're not helping, they're just adding more of your problem. So, getting whole food, getting something that's been processed properly, and most of us don't know how to process things properly. With plants, there's a temperature factor. You do not want to overheat. You do want to make sure they don't have chemicals on them. You do need it to be basically fermented down a lot of times, cooked at a low heat. With proteins also, you do not want them overcooked. You do too high of a heat, you take the protein and the sugars that are in it, and they connect together, and your body can't do anything with that. Even with your cooking day to day, these are things you should be applying. You should make sure you're cleaning it, you're buying quality, you're cleaning the food off, and then you're cooking it properly to seasonings, to temperature, to if with plants how they need to be cleaned off. So these are all things that are needed to make sure that you can get the ingredients and you're getting it into the body, you can use it. Just because you have a protein and you eat it does not mean you're breaking it down properly, and that if it's been cooked improperly, you're not getting the whole amino acids from it. You're getting partial, because out of the 8 essential amino acids, 6 of them are heat sensitive. So if you're overheating them, you're getting congested bloodstream with 2 amino acids when you need a full spectrum. The plants too, if they're getting overcooked and overheated and a bunch of chemicals added to it, by the time the body gets it, there's nothing there to help. You're just congesting things as well. So you want to be sure of what you're putting into your body and the quality of what you're putting into your body. And even you cooking at home, you should be soaking, fermenting, steaming, plant-based foods. Do you realize too, I had this conversation with my sister. We were talking about, I believe it was herbicides and pesticides. Certain plants have certain things that are considered toxins in them naturally, and your body and how you digest can convert them, because your bacteria are what decide that. And if you have a bad gut, that can be a problem. Or if you're not digesting properly, some of those foods are sitting in between your villi and rotting and causing a bunch of distress. So that's another factor if digestion's not flowing properly. But certain plants, they were talking about nightshades, can actually come up as a toxin with the herbicides and pesticides, and they have them naturally inside of them. Plants do put out a lot of things that are naturally considered toxic to us, but that's their way of keeping you from digesting and causing issues so that you won't eat them anymore. Even with like rhubarb, yeah, it's a highly toxic plant if it's not cooked properly. Elderberry can be very deadly if it's not processed into a syrup and used. A lot of these plants have great things inside of them, but if they're not processed properly, you cannot reap the benefits of those nutrients inside them. And if digestion's not working, you're not getting it either. If you're cooking, like I said, your meats, you're overcooking them, you're killing it. You need live things to live. Eating dead things does not promote health. Like calcium, even the way Standard Process does calcium, they actually just take the bones, they put them in a big cylinder with like a big bowling ball and smash them down. They do not heat them. Most calciums you guys are getting out there are from rocks and things like that, and they're dead factors. They've been heated to make them into what they need to be, and that is not going to help your body. So we need to have foods that are properly processed, and we need to make sure that we're taking the time to make sure the foods that we're preparing for ourselves, we're doing properly. We're soaking, rinsing off of our plants. Even green tea, for those of you, if you have an excess of green tea, it's considered, there's natural fluorides in them. So if you're getting too much of that, it's causing a problem with your iodine, and you need more iodine, because the fluoride will block that receptor from the thyroid itself. So those are all things that you have to consider, and that's why a lot of people come to see someone like me, because there is so many things to consider, and they don't want to have to weigh those things all out themselves. But we often just assume that certain foods are just good for us because they're plant or they're this or they're that. Everything has its factors and how to prepare it properly. And even when it comes down to the supplements, you want to make sure that you're getting in something that, one, you can digest, because a lot of these, if you're going to Costco and buying a lot of those pills, a lot of them you can't even break down. You're just going to, it's going to run through your digestive tract, and you're going to remove it the other side and not have gained any benefits. That's why I always put people on Catalin for the multivitamin rather than them going to get something from most health food stores because it is digestible and you'll actually get the nutrients from it. So that's just my little rant about nutrition and things that we do. We have a lot of mainstream that teaches incorrect principles, and often they generalize it, and generalizing doesn't help anybody. We all are very unique in our makeup and what we need. And so just because I would love to say a name, but I'm not going to say it, just because this one very popular naturopathic gentleman says these things does not actually make everything he says accurate. There may be vital points. And this is like why movies like What the Health and things come out with all this information, and you get all sorts of people just converting to what they're saying, and it actually works out very negatively. A lot of people will go to a plant-based diet and become a vegan and vegetarian, and they'll feel amazing for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden their energies tank, and all these autoimmune issues start happening, and all these things start going awry. And that is because they are not telling you that, yeah, it will help cleanse you and you will feel better, but then you've got to get back in your fats and your proteins to help the body to thrive and to have those energies again. But those are the things they leave out. What the Health got me with saying how plants are great for you and do all these things, but you guys are eating cows that live in pastures next to industrial plants, and you're getting all those toxins. Well, most of your plants are actually doing that. And animals can actually detoxify those things from the industrial plants that they're around, the industrial areas. They have detoxifying organs, and they can flush and process out those things. Plants, if grown under a flight path or in bad soil or next to something that's putting out negative things chemical wise or otherwise, they cannot push them back out. They just absorb it and they hold it in. They maybe, some of them can convert things, like your hemp can take very toxic hemp, and nettle can take toxic things and convert it into something good. Those chemicals are inside that plant for the most part, and you then are taking that and taking in those chemicals. And now what? The Where an animal in a toxic situation will detoxify and flush those things back out. So it's not necessarily getting stored into it. Granted, I still don't believe that you should get an animal that has been given a bunch of shots and fed a bunch of crap food and things like that. But anyway, there's factors that I could point out probably all day long, but I'm not going to. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of snip here. Hopefully this is helpful information. And hopefully something that you can take back. So when somebody comes to you and says, oh, I do this supplement, it's so good, and it's from whole food, most of them can feel a difference because of the synthetic factors. They'll put a synthetic bee in there that will make you feel tingly or whatever the case may be. But that's not actually doing something other than causing you to feel it per se. And standard process doesn't do those things. So most people recognize it when they come off of those. But if somebody comes to you and says, this is such a good supplement, it's got all these high amounts on here, you should definitely take it. When you look at that back panel, point out to your friends or whoever, look, these are all chemicals. They may have they may have picked a plant and pulled it out of there, but this isn't whole food anymore because now it's just a chemical. And that eventually will cause some issues. If you know what you're doing, which I'm going to say 75%, I'm going to be kind with that. 75% of people probably have no idea what they're doing but would like to. So just be cautious. Just understand that there is a difference between whole food and what a box or bag or can or a pill container says whole food is. And to pay attention to those listings on the ingredients labels. Anyway, you guys have a great day. I hope you guys are all thriving. I hope you guys are all on top of your garlic and your immune boosting so that we can have a amazing winter time, enjoy our families and friends, and not have to worry about being sick. And I will talk to you guys later.